Hey guys, it's Aaron the Ho, and today we are going to take a closer look at the Catalyst case for the iPhone 5 and 5S. I've been using this case for a few days, and I don't want to jump the gun, but this is a really awesome case. This might be a new favorite of mine.
Real usage, real reviews. Mobilereviews-eh.ca.
This case is drop-proof up to 6.6 feet, which is kind of average, but the best part about this case is that it's waterproof up to 16.4 feet, which is quite astonishing given that your generic LifeProof and Otterbox case, they're only waterproof up to 6.6 feet. So this case almost has 10 feet on them. One of the things I noticed right off the bat is that it's a very slick case. So if you're a person who likes to wear skinny jeans, this will go into your pockets really easily. So we're going to take the next few minutes and I'm going to show you some of the features of this case, and I am going to mention the part that I don't like the most. The size and bulk of the case when compared to an iPhone. Well, I add about 1/4 inch around the entire edge of your iPhone, and it doesn't quite double the thickness of the iPhone, which makes this case one of the thinnest iPhone waterproof cases that we've encountered. In terms of the weight of the case, it'll only add about 30% more weight to the iPhone, which is one of the lightest cases that we've encountered that's fully waterproof and drop-proof. The front of the case feels very, very rigid. The majority of the case is textured. It's not rubbery, but it's not completely smooth. The screen protector runs across the entire length of the front of the iPhone, so you can easily access swipe menus. The top of the case is clear, so the only cutout is for the earpiece speaker. Also, Catalyst tells you not to poke that plastic membrane that covers that cutout. Just an FYI. At the bottom of the case, the Touch ID membrane has a matted look to it, and it's much different since it's not a clear, sticky looking membrane that's found on your typical LifeProof and Otterbox case. I personally think the Catalyst's Touch ID membrane looks way better. Getting to the ports is quite easy, as all you have to do is peel back these rubber plugs. The mic on the iPhone is covered by a barely visible wire mesh, which is pretty neat. Now, I will mention that there isn't a cutout for the speaker of the iPhone, but surprisingly the sound coming from the iPhone inside the case isn't muted much, and I'll explain that in a bit. There is a cutout for you to attach a wrist strap to the case, but if you don't have one, you can go to Catalyst's website and buy one for $5. Now, they do have a floaty wrist strap thing, which is a little more expensive, but again, you can just take if you've got an old camera with a wrist strap on, you can use that, take it off the old camera and put it on this case. Now, there isn't a headphone jack extension that is included with the Catalyst, and that kind of does bother me a bit, though you can go to Catalyst's website and guess what? You can spend $15 on a headphone jack extension. And the best part about these headphone jack extensions is that they don't keep your case and your iPhone waterproof. They tell you that you're not supposed to use them in continuous submersion. Getting to the buttons on your iPhone, like your volume and your power sleep switch, is quite simple, as there's just flow-throughs for each one of them. The mute switch is a little unique since you turn a knob rather than flipping it. For this to work properly, you do have to install it properly. A couple of viewers have had troubles with that. You have to turn it at a certain angle and then put it in. On the inside of the front part of the case, here's another shot of the Touch ID sensor, but other than that, the only thing worth noting is that the iPhone sits on a bunch of rubber bumpers on the inside of the case. Now, the back panel is quite simple. There's a cutout for the camera and the flash, though the flash cutout is a bit small in my opinion, so the edges of the True Tone flash will get cut off. Now, I will mention that there won't be any flash backsplatter, and what I mean by that is when you take a picture and the flash goes out, a lot of the times these cases that don't separate out the two camera and the flash cutouts, the flash will bounce off the covering on the flash cover and then go into the photograph. So you get these really overexposed photographs. You're not going to have that problem with the Catalyst. Catalyst does include a smaller cutout for the mic on the back of the iPhone, which is nice. They've taken that into account. There's an O-ring that runs along the entire edge of the back panel of the case, and this is what provides the waterproof seal. The iPhone doesn't actually sit flush against the back of the case. There is a bit of a gap. And this gap is actually part of the reason why the sound isn't muted from the case, because at the bottom of the case, right by the lightning port connector, you can kind of tell that the area around the speaker is a little different. There's a little hole. And if you look at how the iPhone sits inside the blue part of the case, or the front part of the case, the speaker part isn't completely blocked out by the case. There is about a millimeter gap, and so from what I can guess is that the sound travels through that little gap, and then the back of the case actually acts as an amplifier. That's what I'm going to guess, because the sound coming from the iPhone inside the Catalyst isn't really muted that much. It's pretty neat, actually. Taking the case apart is quite simple, but you do need to use a coin. Now, I haven't been able to open it with my bare hands, but it's quite simple. You put the coin and then you turn and then you peel the two pieces apart. If this is the first time you're watching one of our videos, I do encourage you to click subscribe, as our channel is really all about helping you get the most out of iOS. So product reviews, news, as well as tips and tricks. We put out content 2 to 3 times a week. With the Catalyst case, we are going to drop it and we're going to soak it in some water to see if it's actually waterproof. So do click subscribe. You won't be disappointed. Now, the feature that I like least about the Catalyst is how they've actually implemented the O-ring on the back side of the case. The O-ring sits in a ridge on the back side of the case. It's not glued to it, so it can come out quite easily, and over time I do believe it will stretch. Now, this is the back panel of the predecessor of the Catalyst, the Griffin Survivor Plus Catalyst, and the O-ring is pretty loose. It's a little looser than the one found on the Catalyst, and it was pretty tight when we got the case, but that was over a year ago. But the problem is when you install the case, the O-rings sometimes might pop out between the edge of the front of the case and the edge of the back of the case, and then, if you're not careful, then your phone case isn't waterproof, and then, well, your phone's going to take in water. It'd just be really nice if they were to attach the O-ring to the back of the panel so you don't really have to deal with that. Given that this case is waterproof up to 16.4 feet, you would think that the thing that gives that waterproof protection is pretty solid, though it doesn't feel like it. So those are kind of all the close-up features of the Catalyst case by Catalyst. Do check out the video annotations at the end. We are doing a water and drop test as well as a full review for this entire case. I'm Aaron the Ho. If you have any questions for me, leave them in the comment section below. I'm be more than happy to answer them, or you can find us on Facebook, Google+, as well as Twitter. Do check out our Facebook page, as we've got a couple of case giveaways as well. I'm Aaron the Ho, and this might be my new favorite case. We'll see.